news came out just recently that Germany is losing Mercedes, specifically the A-Class sedan that has been produced in Germany for decades. The production for that is being moved to Hungary. There's an article, and we could take a look at it here, that just came out in Remix. Remix, I think, as best I can tell, is a propaganda mouthpiece. I don't know who's behind it, et cetera, but it seems to focus on that type of news. And the reason that they're reporting on this is because these jobs are going to Hungary. So Mercedes is relocating production to Hungary. 20,000 Germans set to lose their jobs. And if we get down into the article, we can see, and yet another major blow to the German automobile labor market, Mercedes has announced it will be relocating production of its A-Class from Rastatt, Germany, to somewhere in Hungary. I'm not going to try that one. And of course, the trade minister of Hungary is the one announcing this, very happy, of course, to be able to say this, do a victory lap. And if we come down a little further, we see this quote: Mercedes-Benz has stood for German engineering excellence in Germany's economic upswing for decades. Yet, like many other automakers, the company is cutting jobs in Germany and expanding in other countries. As a result, the entire production of the A-Class is being relocated to Hungary. 20,000 employees are expected to lose their jobs as a result. Now, this is a politician that is standing in opposition to Friedrich Merz. And we can see Merz over here. He's the chancellor of Germany right now. He's 70 years old. He's part of the Christian Democratic Party. But the thing about Merz and his party is they have been aggressively pursuing not only carbon neutral, but like anti-combustion engine, anything that's green oriented, very aggressive. They're hostile to manufacturing. They're hostile to combustion engines. They're setting very aggressive timelines for Germany to become a completely green country. And what's happening is Germany's manufacturing industrial base, which has been a huge part of the German economic power. I mean, Germany dominated Europe, and still does to a degree. But they've dominated Europe as a financial, economic, industrial powerhouse. And what you're seeing now is the destruction of that dominance by, I guess what I would say is just squandering their inheritance. I mean, the Germans are known for their engineering. They're known for their precision, their attention to detail. I mean, I've owned numerous BMWs, love German cars. I've driven and ridden in Mercedes. To see this industry be stripped, to be undermined, to be destroyed. And it's not only just the hostility to the combustion engine and to manufacturing in general, but there's this ideological fixation with globalism, ideological fixation with the war in Ukraine and being against Russia. There's ideological fixation also on energy sources. They're very much trying to get off of any type of coal, any type of oil reliance, to go completely green if possible. There's a hostility to nuclear. So what you've got is a leadership in Germany that is committed to ideological goals and aspirations. They are not looking at the reality of the terrain that they are currently on and saying, okay, given where we're at right now, what do we do? And so you're seeing this kind of cyclical over and over again. Every winter, there's all these headlines about Germany's about to face the worst winter of its history, and they don't have enough energy to heat homes, manufacturing is leaving, and so on. Well, let's take a look right now a little bit at the story, and specifically, what is the Mercedes A-Class? Well, this is an A-Class right here in its current iteration. The automobile's been around since 1996, and I think it came out initially as a hatchback, and it's had all kinds of generations, iterations. You can kind of see some of the stuff. But one of the things that's interesting to me, and if we just, you can come down here, you can see the fourth generation, and that's the vehicle we're looking at. They sell mainly in, they sell everywhere. I mean, you can see them in the U.S., you can see them in Europe, Australia. But if we look at sales, the automobile retails right now for about 34,000 US dollars. You're going to buy it in the US, it's 34,000 US dollars. But you can see here on Wikipedia, and the data is incomplete. Like where's the sales in the United States? Why only Europe and Australia? Okay, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, if we go down though, just to do a quick back of the napkin calculation, you can see just in Europe alone here at the top, just in Europe alone in 2021. Now this was peak virus. Everybody was locked in their house. Nobody was buying anything, et cetera, et cetera. They sold over 100,000 of these cars, 100,000. The year before in 2020, 158, almost 160,000. 2019, a banner year, almost 200,000 vehicles sold in Europe alone. And then you got to look at things like Australia. You've got to look at the Middle East where Mercedes are very popular. And you got to look at them at the United States auto market. You'll see a lot of these. Now, the thing about this car is it retails around $34,000. It's a $34,000 car. So what you're getting here, it's positioned as affordable luxury. You're a young and up-and-comer. Maybe you're older and you're trying to manage your limited funds as you're kind of gliding down to the end of life. This is the car for you, especially for the early entry into the market. $34,000 car, it's luxury, it's got the Mercedes badge, it's everything you want. Now, if you go here, and we don't know what they did 22, 23, 24, I believe, I can't, don't quote me on this. I think Mercedes is a publicly traded company. Again, don't quote me. We would be able to look up if we went into their annual reports, if that were the case. However, they were public at one point, but I just don't know if they are now or not. But if we even just go on $100,000, if we say, okay, 100,000 cars. So we say, okay, the automobile sells now for about 34,000, and let's say they do 100,000 in sales. It's obvious if you look at that sales data, just in Europe alone, they're doing well more than 100,000. But if you take 100,000 units by 30,000, we'll drop the price. Even though 34,000 is the sticker price, you're always going to pay more for that. And why is that? Well, no, Mike, I can go in and I bargain. I get a good deal. Yeah, you get a good deal. But that stripped down, you're like, well, we kind of want to upgrade the stereo and we want a different paint finish. We want we don't want the Naugahyde leather. We want the real leather, whatever. And well, after you get done upgrading, you're at 40K plus. That's just how this works, especially at the lower level, because you're feeling like, well, it's my first time getting Mercedes. This means a lot to me. This is a status thing. I want to feel good about myself. This isn't an economic buy where you're trying to save nickels and dimes. You're trying to leverage up into, now you might not be able to afford more, but a lot of those buyers buy beyond what they should. But the point being, even if we just drop the price from 34 to 30 and we multiply that by 100,000, that's $3 billion in sales. That's US dollars. That's barely Europe alone, $3 billion. So Germany right now is losing a manufacturing plant that produces well over, it could be close to double that if you include the US market and the rest of the globe. $3 billion and 20,000 jobs gone like that. I believe Germany, maybe last year, I can't remember what the number was. They lost like almost 150,000 jobs last year. Net negative. And so what you see here are these policies coming to roost, if you will. What's curious for me is, where will this end? I mean, are they going to kind of reassess where they're at, or are they going to continue to ignore the terrain that they're on and just march forward with ideologically driven policies? If we go back here, I think I said 150,000. If we scroll down here, this looks like another Remix News article. Germany loses 120,000 manufacturing employees in just 1 year. Okay, so that was in 2024. In 2024, they lost 120,000 manufacturing jobs, just manufacturing. That doesn't cover all the other sectors in the German economy. So that's That's pretty serious. Now, why Hungary? They're going to Hungary, and you say to yourself, well, why Hungary? Well, if you've been paying attention to the political news, and if you've been able to, like if you're just paying attention to the mainstream media, Hungary bad, Orange Man bad, Hungary bad. That's just what you hear. Orban is this terrible, dictator, and just normal, like decent people are terrified for their lives because the Gestapo might come in and arrest them at any moment. It's just this kind of nonsense. But the Orban administration has been very Hungary first. Let's make Hungary great again. I'm using Trump obviously as a lens or a frame here. But Orban's been very pro-Hungarian. He's refused to participate in some aspects of the European Union. He's become a bit of a pariah because of that. He's been pro-family. They've been experimenting, not all of it successful, with trying to get folks to have more babies, trying to grow the population, knowing that we need more Hungarians to fuel the economy and to be stable, to protect our culture and our heritage. They've been very hostile to any type of immigration that's been illegal. They want to control their borders. I do know of people, Americans, et cetera, that have successfully moved there and live in Hungary, Budapest, but they are not just open borders like Germany has been under Angela Merkel and the various and sundry leaders. The German people are the losers in all this, and the Hungarian people are the winners. And I think that Mercedes is looking at Hungary because of the stability. It's like you can look at this and you can say, okay, the policies are pro-economic, pro-wealth, pro-people, pro-building and making things. Like they're there saying, we'll do that for you. We support that. Come, work with us. And I would imagine that the Hungarian worker is well educated. There may be challenges. I'm not certain to what degree the Hungarian worker is able to get the tolerance, quality tolerance that, say, a German is. But, Mercedes has been making vehicles in other countries. This isn't the first time that Mercedes has opened a plant somewhere else. But the case in point here is Hungary's right next door. This isn't a Vietnam plant or some plant in Tennessee so that they can get closer to the American market and avoid tariffs. This is right next door. The strategic move here is not to get closer to the market they're selling to or to avoid transport costs. This is to get out from under a self-destructing regime, a chaotic regime based on ideas that have no coherence. I mean, this is the thing. Orban's animating ideas, the things that drive his decisions, they're based on coherence. He understands the need for a healthy, growing population, the value of protecting and maintaining both their history, their shared culture, shared values, shared language, shared religion, etc. He's not hostile to everybody else's way of living, but he's saying, look, we have a strategic asset in who we are, and if we lose that, what's left? We're just a stop on a map. And so I think if you couple that with the types of policy that say, no, we're going to do things in a way that's rational, that's reasonable, that you can actually guess ahead what we're going to do. We're not going to be chaotic, and there's not going to be a level of instability. We're going to respect property rights, by the way. We're not going to step on your neck and take every nickel that you earn, treating you like some type of criminal. We're going to treat you like a welcome guest and one that we're happy to have. So the Hungarians pick up probably close to 20,000 jobs. They have now a factory that's going to be producing over $9 billion in gross sales worth of product. That's huge. And if you think about all the suppliers around that, whenever you have some type of factory, think of the type of factory that's going to be there to produce hundreds of thousands of these A-class vehicles. You're going to have injection molders and wire harness assemblers and restaurants. Everything's going to kind of coalesce around that high production facility. And Hungary gets some bragging rights. So, we just snatched a big prize. They're going to be more respected on the manufacturing stage. You don't think that people are going to say, well, gee, if Mercedes is producing its A-class there, that must be a pretty high production standard. We ought to take a look at Hungary. Seems like a stable government. Seems like you can work with them. Seems like they're not hostile to capital, to wealth, et cetera. I am not over here saying that all capital, all wealth, all manufacturing is good. I'm just saying Hungary has created an environment that a reasonable person or organization can look and say, you know what, we can actually plan. We can feel secure. We don't have to worry about all these bizarre decisions made by an ideologue or an ideological government. We can focus on what we need to do, which is return value to our shareholders, make great product, and in part of that return value is to create wealth. And it looks like that that they're going to be able to do that. It'll be interesting to me, I should say, to see what Mercedes continues to do. I think you're going to see an exodus out of Germany. I think this is just the beginning. It's already started, but this is just the beginning. You're going to see more and more companies leaving Germany. And Germany, I think, not learning its lesson. There are German people that don't agree with this government. But you're going to see Germany just continue to ratchet down its control and to go deeper and deeper into ideology to a point where you have, similar to the old Soviet Union, where it's kind of like the emperor has no clothes. They're going to, centrally planned, and they're going to say that we're adhering to science and scientific methods, but in the end, it's just not going to work. And so that's my take on it. I'd love to know what you think. Leave me a comment down below. If you like this kind of thinking, I've got a weekly newsletter. It's called Broadside. It's $7 a month. It's a bargain, but it's where I think about these things and how these things interact with other dynamics, etc. Love for you to subscribe. Just the link will be down below. But do me a favor, like and subscribe, and know this: I love each and every one of you. I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.